everyone. This is Tatiana Dudiez. We are hosting Thrive and Shine. This is a show about authentic leadership, about consciousness, about all of the above and more. We host amazing people who are leaders in their field, in the world, and who specifically embody the change that they want to see. As you probably have gotten a taste so far of the guests that I have had the privilege to host, they are all fabulous and amazing leaders, men and women. We're not focusing on just women, we're focusing on men as well. So today we have Anneloes Smitsman. She is the CEO and founder of EARTHwise, the EARTHwise Center. She is fabulous. I've gotten to know her a little bit, and I really want all of you to get to know her even more today. So without any further ado, this is Anneloes. Welcome. Hello.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Wonderful to be with you. Thank you.
So Anneloes is joining us from a very far location. We had to do a little bit of magic this morning to record this show, which most of you are going to have still today on Monday to accommodate. So where are you in? Which location? Remind us. Because it's really cool.
It's like the pearl of the Indian Ocean. It's surrounded by blue lagoons. It's called Mauritius, the island of Mauritius. It's near Madagascar.
Amazing. That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's super late for you. Thank you so much for joining us and making sure that you are timely. So, Anneloes, tell us a little bit about you and how you got to form this EARTHwise Center. And as I was starting to chat with you before we got live, I really can't wait to dive into what fire means to you. And because it is quite timely, we are hosting this show today, Monday, November 12th, as we in LA have been suffering from a huge fire. Hundreds of homes have been destroyed. People have died, and it has been quite a catastrophe here. And it's something that, as I'm learning about LA, it's something that we are threatened with every year. However, this one, I think, was a really, really big one. So tell us more about your EARTHwise Center and the meaning of fire for you in life.
Wonderful questions, and indeed very powerful time to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, the vision for EARTHwise Center, and this was long before it was established as an organization, came from the time I was living in Australia, and I was learning a lot from the Australian Aborigines.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're probably aware of, Australia is a real fire country. Yes, so there are always bushfires there, and this is why they've also had a lot of practices of controlled fires in order to manage this well. And so this is during one of my journeys where I went into the sacred center, what they call the Red Center of Uluru and Katajuta. And it's from those places where you have the initiations of what they call the rainbow serpent, the sacred dreamings of the serpent energy, which is the kind of active feminine fire energy that I really learned a lot about fire. And I learned about working with the sacred flame of life and with the active creative power. And So,
and this is how actually we were linked to begin with, is because we both work with the wild or divine or whatever you want to call it, but with the feminine within us and our clients. And so, but you have a very unique aspect to the way that you work with the feminine. And I thought it was really fascinating. The little bit that you told me was amazing. So, and how did you even get into the study and the practice? Because we can't possibly study the feminine without practicing it. That's impossible. How did you get to this? Like, what brought you here from your experience in life?
I like that. Well, my spiritual development started very young. already when I was a little girl, and then it got more and more activated when I was a teenager. I grew up in the Netherlands, and then as I grew up, I was also looking for guidance, because a lot of these powers, as they started to awaken, and I didn't quite understand what was happening, and I found at that time there was not much known around the indigenous European wisdoms. It took me many more years later, and I came full circle with that and reconnected with my European roots. But at that time, I was then going to Africa and to Australia as well to learn from the indigenous wisdoms there. And that really brought me in contact with that. But then what I noticed as well, that a lot of these spiritual development paths were taught by men. And a lot of it was quite a masculine approach. And there was this kind of what I felt was a misconception, as if the feminine was only receptive and the masculine was active. And when I, really got in touch with my body and with Mother Earth and Mother Earth's energy, and Mother Earth initiates us directly as well, and really working with the spirit of the land, of the places where I was, I noticed that there is an amazing creative power in us as women. That's active creative power. And I felt that if I was only focusing on that, bringing that up here, it became quite mental, and it just didn't feel aligned for me with my body. So I, through a lot of many years of inner retreats and really, honing my own intuitive development and holding that intention, show me the feminine way, show me the feminine path. It's through that I started to really then explore that, and also learning from nature itself. That, the feminine principles is really about that really deep connectedness. It's relational always.
It's relational always. I love that.
And it's that power, so as women as well, not to be afraid of the power that's in our womb and the sacred fire that's in our womb and how it enters us and how to work with that. And this is when last time when we talked, I was sharing with you that if we're looking at what's going on in our world today, almost all of that goes back to the wrong use of fire. Not understanding of the power of fire. We have our world is literally warming up. Of course, this is because of the greenhouse gas emissions that are accumulating in the atmosphere. That are trapping, of course, the solar energy, so it's not able to reflect back as it normally would because of the greenhouse gas emissions that keep it trapped in the lower areas of the atmosphere. So, but also if we're looking at our resource development, so instead of working with the solar energy, we've been working with, burning fossil fuels. If you're looking at also, the whole way in which our societies have been built around, to me, a very archaic form of relationship with fire. And then, of course, our divisions, our anger, whereas the flame itself, the center of the flame, what I call kind of the sacred flame, it can give us such incredible clarity and beautiful vision, and it gives us amazing creative powers and love.
It represents, in fact, it represents the light, right? It would be holding the light, which illuminates the darkness, which transcends and transforms, right? That's what the fire does. And so let's go back to what you just mentioned, because I would like our audience to really understand what you mean by misuse of fire. So in your view and opinion, how would our society and our world would use fire and the sacredness of the flame within the fire, which is that light that transcends and transforms? How would society use it if they only knew its power and potential?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, to kind of explore that, we need to go very far back. So my view of human development is that we have externalized more and more and more of our powers, in the same way that the inner power of fire and the sacred fire, and we've externalized it, and now fire is only becoming almost like electrical, so it's disconnected from its spiritual roots. So the misuse of many of the powers, not only with fire, but especially with fire, is that the more that we've externalized our power, and the less we've realized and actualized our innate powers and our innate consciousness.
Yes. Which is okay. So that's fascinating, because it's so then it's directly linked to, in fact, the way that our society views power today, which is all
Absolutely.
external versus internal, which is really the basics of my teachings
Exactly.
with powerful women is and that is my story, is I got stuck at some point about 5 years ago. I got stuck being powerful on the outside, like most are, and yet having to go on the inside to really find the true power, the true flame, in fact.
That's it. That's it.
I love it. I love it.
Exactly.
It's fascinating because, not only are we one in this world, but what fascinates me is that the principles are always the same. There is this alignment between all. All is connected.
Yeah.
We create
Yeah.
divisions, but in fact, it's all connected. So this way that people have perceived power up until now is so external, so materialistic, so based on outer achievement and an outer sense of self, that they've lost what their inner self is all about, their truth, and therefore their fire.
That's it. Absolutely. Exactly. And it's through that fire, also if we're looking at from the stages of consciousness, from the pure oneness, as you're saying, going through the 5 elements, coming into form, then the fire is a very important, convergence in the center of that transition. And so it gives us vision. It gives us passion. That passion, when it gets grounded into the heart, becomes compassion. And it's also about learning then to bring these elements of fire into the other elements. And this is again, whereas humanity, we've really abused it. We've been so focused on fire alone and as fire for resource development, societal development. Whereas, for example, if you bring that beautiful sacred flame into the water, so you illuminate the water, yes? Then there's also this emotional clarity that we can have, and you ground it within the earth element as well. And it's interesting what we have now been doing, because you need the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether, space. Yes, they work as a wholeness. So there's always this balancing. In our world right now, fire element is activated, and it is activated especially within the air element. Look at your fires that you've had, very dry air, right? It's like your air has been on fire, and the way that through this firestorm, all these fires have been spreading, what we were talking about earlier. And so there is a lot in terms of the imbalances that we're seeing within ourselves, the imbalances that we also see in our society, and in the way that we relate. All of those imbalances are interrelated. And yes, and that is also an incredible opportunity for our healing, for our healing at a societal level, for planetary healing. And this is really what EARTHwise Center is about. It's about giving that planetary perspective and understanding of what's happening in our world today and our role within that, and the opportunities that we have in what we can do with this to really bring us together in a whole new way.
So how it's also reflected, I want to clarify, just so that we're being as concise as possible for our viewers, is the way that fire is misused or not misused. Let me take that away. The way that fire is actually manifested in our society, as you say, everything is interrelated, would be how we interact with one another, how countries interact with one another, with a lot of fiery, literally, communications, firearms, wars, and a lot of aggression and aggressivity. That is pure misuse of fire, disrespect, blatant disrespect, fiery, angry communications and behavior. That only perpetrates more fire, and misuse of fire, and that only perpetrates more anger and more aggression. Correct?
Yes, absolutely. And this is why my sense, it's not about now the suppression of fire, but the listening to fire. Really, really listen to what fire can teach us, what it can tell us.
Mm.
And then really, where we've been externalizing and giving those powers away, taking responsibility truly for our creative powers as human beings, balancing that once again, then there's so many things that we can change in our world.
It all starts again, as I always say in every show, it shows up. It all starts within. It all starts with that realization and ownership of self-leadership. Once we heal inside, once we are owners, full owners of what goes on inside and the way that we show up and decide to show up in the world, only then can we have an impact that is positive on this world. So what would this fire mean to you, or the fires that we see in the world, including, for instance, this fire in nature right now? Not that, I don't want to talk about it in terms of perpetuating more sadness around it, but perhaps giving another dimension to what this could symbolically mean in Mother Nature for all of us here to be witness of such wildfires. Is there a deeper meaning for you?
Well, yes. I mean, and they're at all levels again. Now you're seeing the fire play out in terms of your bushfires. It's the fire is also there when you're having hurricanes and cyclones, because it means that there's been accumulated heat very often in the oceans, because there's so much heat that gets absorbed also by the ocean, and that heat's got to go somewhere. Yes. Now, so if we're looking at, for example, in our body, if our body temperature only goes a little bit higher, we run a fever. And so in these very small degrees and changes that we're seeing in the body, we would say, I'm not feeling well, I'm running a fever. And we would immediately notice that a slight change in temperature can have huge impacts. Yet when we're thinking of our world, we don't think of it in that way. We don't realize, we are now at 1 degree warming. If we start the measurements from pre-industrial levels, we are heading towards 2 degrees warming. It seems we're on a trajectory, in fact, to 3 to 4 degrees warming. So in some ways, if we're looking at fire, the element is also an element for awakening, waking up, activating, transmutation, purification. And so if we're working, this is unfortunately, in a lot of painful situations, yes, because the way that we are manifesting this learning right now is not an easy ride at all. And we're coming from such a long period of disunity that there is a catch-up effect as well. But if we're working then again as a healing with the power that fire gives us, and to really see, with all these hardships and all the burning down, for many people, what they're feeling and experiencing right now is that not only are we running a collective fever, it's like a planetary fever.
Interesting.
We are
I love
also, our old worlds are burning down. So many people are feeling that the systems in which we have been, and that so many people have felt lost, and these mechanistic.
That's powerful. I'm getting shivers everywhere. Oof. That is so powerful. That is powerful. So let's go back to that, because I really want to underline that. It's you just said it's the burning down of what has been. The systems that have not symbolically, right? And actually figuratively in some ways. It's the burning down of what has been.
Yeah. Yeah. And you see this aggravating. We have this, what the Hopis also have said, we have this fork in the road, where we can choose. Are we going to really work with Mother Earth for what is required and be the change that we want to see in the world, or continue to deny it? If we're going to continue to deny it, the fire in its destructive aspect is going to increase. If we accept it, then fire in its transformative aspect will increase. So it's up to us. Are we going to work with it destructively, or are we going to work with it creatively and transformative? The choice is in our hands and in our hearts.
Hence this show.
That's it.
Right?
Exactly.
Because I just think that we need to, our jobs as the ones who have chosen We have chosen transformation. We have chosen transmutation through light and through fire, through the tools that we have. Our jobs is to give these tools to the world around us so that we also perhaps make it a little bit easier to people around us to make that choice, because there is a really very important choice for all of us to make. And the more the merrier, because that's the way that our planet will survive in a greater way. I mean, there is the rise of women. The rise of women is part of this illumination and this transformation. It is not a coincidence that there is this huge wave and rise of women around the world wanting to make a difference, who are not just wanting to make a difference, but are making a difference because we hold that flame within. Correct?
And yes, but now as women comes the next challenge, and I really hope all our sisters are going to embrace that. We also need to learn how to work with that sacred flame, because I've seen a lot of people that they want to hold the power.
Oh, yes. No, it's not about holding the power in a negative and self-serving way. Absolutely not.
There's a learning with that.
We have
there's a learning with that. And
right.
There's this, otherwise the imbalance shifts.
That's correct.
Again,
and then we
the
will...
other side of the pendulum.
Exactly. So given that... I love that you made that point, because for me it was like obvious, but it's not. It's obvious because to me it's obvious, because it's not about holding on to a power that will shift the world upside down in the opposite way. It's about coming back to harmony, That's back. So we are, as women, we have that possibility, that inner power of light to bring back harmony, to bring back some kind of balance. And it's also up to us to not hold on to this type of power to manipulate or to self-serve or to wrong society or men or children in any way. It is a great source of power, and it needs to be honored, and it needs to be highly respected and held as sacred. So, in your opinion, what would I want to draw that picture so that it's very, very clear for our audience. I want you to draw the picture of the woman who would turn this upside down, this great source of power and light and fire, and make it the type that we do not want to see or experience.
Yes. And thank you for articulating this so clearly, because it's really essential. Because what you see is when, the active power finds another portal for which to work through. Before it was a lot through the man, and now it comes to the woman. The lessons are around how we hold that as stewards are still the same for all of us. So this is where for women it is essential. You see, the place where where fire in our body sits best and doesn't burn is the heart itself. So what you find is that when the flame, is really active, the heart can become so hot, amazingly hot, and yet it doesn't burn. So there is a natural place in our being, and as woman, and it's the heart, and it's also the womb, where that fire sits just in its right place. And that means also, so open your heart. As women, we need to open our heart. Really important. We need to open our heart. Also be really grounded, well connected with Mother Earth, with our planets.
And what does that mean for, just hold on to that thought, to those two thoughts, open your heart and ground. To us, it's what we have chosen to do, right? This is why we are part of the healers, we are part of the teachers. But I really want to make it so obvious to other women or even men who are watching and go, what the hell are they talking about? Open your heart. And what does that mean, open your heart and ground yourself?
Good question. Exactly. First of all, it means open your heart. Means that there's a maturity and a responsibility for your emotions and your emotional development as well. So that means that you really take responsibility, what I would call your whole self-development. You have your physical development, you have your emotional development, you have your mental development, intellectual development, spiritual development as one whole. Again, all the elements in balance. So open your heart really means there is a relationship you have with yourself and with life that is based on deep listening, on the development of self-love, on self-honesty, also on self-care. Yeah. So it comes through the values also, in the way that you live your values. Yeah. And in the way that you make decisions, what matters to you, what prioritizes. Yeah. How do we make decisions in terms of, is it just me, what I want? Or do we check in to say, what's for the good of the whole?
That's right.
So the more we can hold in our heart, in our whole being, these bigger perspectives, these planetary perspectives of what matters, the bigger questions of how does this serve not just myself, or even my family, but myself, my family, and my larger family, really understand it, the unified reality of life, that we are all one family. So the more we are able to hold these bigger perspectives, these bigger questions, the more our heart becomes expanded, the more that the power of life can rest within us in such a way that it becomes a blessing and it doesn't become an imbalance or an abuse, because it's then not sourced from the little I, it's not sourced or directed by me. It truly is sourced from the wisdom of life itself. And then it's when there is a humility, when we realize that I am not the source of my power. Yeah. I am a source.
I'm a
but the
source,
source
but
of
I
my
am
power.
not. That's right.
Yes,
I am not the source. I am the conduit of
and
that.
more than a conduit, I'd say we are a partner, because we are the universe as well. The universe is within us as well, as that in the same way that we're in the universe. So we're not empty. We're not a vessel in that sense. So there is an active relationship and a partnership. But there's a humility that we are an expression of the oneness, as is all of us. And that is where the grounding comes in. So the grounding doesn't just happen by thinking of your root chakra or your feet on the ground. To me, groundedness means that we are really in touch with that unified reality of life. We really have that grounded awareness of understanding what matters. When I gave a TED talk about this years ago, I shared that through the vector of love methodology.
The
so
what
that means,
methodology? I missed it.
Vector of love. So become as a vector. So a vector has a point of origin. Yes, it has a direction and it has a reach. Yeah, it's
Correct.
the arrow. So know your point of origin, from where you're standing. And if your point of origin is our common roots as a humanity, your reach is really what you're pointing to, is really what's for the good of the whole. Then how deep can you reach within yourself from that source of love to reach out to others? Then you become a vector of love. That way you're grounded, you're centered.
Vector of love.
Here,
how beautiful is that?
A vector of love.
I love that.
And the beautiful things about vectors is when you're, for example, a vector image, when you expand and you stretch it, it doesn't lose its unique properties. So also, as you are a vector,
just gets expanded infinitely, right? It just never loses its properties. That's brilliant. It's exactly that. And it's also, this infinite possibility and capacity for love is, when I remember starting on this journey, and I've always been a love bug. And yet, starting on this journey, I've been witnessing my heart capacity continuously expand. And it's dawned on me several times going, I know it's theoretically limitless and unconditional and all of that. And experiencing it, though, is truly magnificent. It's like such a gift, witnessing in yourself how you can actually continuously expand that heart capacity and take on even more people around you that you love so much. And it just keeps growing.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
It's amazing. I love it.
That's it. That's like a vector. You
It
can
is.
stretch it and expand it, and it doesn't lose its true qualities.
And
Love is like
that analogy is brilliant. I'm going to quote you on this. The vector of love.
Wonderful.
No, because it's so
Yes.
clearly put that
It's so clear, and it's just always 3 questions to ask yourself. What's my point of origin?
Point of origin.
What's my point of origin? So then I know what's the ground on which I'm standing. Yeah. So what am I basing this on?
Right.
What's my point of direction? What am I pointing to?
Mm-hmm.
And what's my reach? How far am I able to reach inside and outside?
Brilliant.
You have those 3 together, then you know your impact.
Brilliant. I love it. Yay. So how is your life today? What are the challenges of your life today, given this powerful knowledge of life? How does that transcend into your daily life, and how do you live today that is different now that you have this wisdom within? How does it feel today? How does your daily life, how is it experienced by you every day that is so radically different from the way you've experienced it before?
I don't know if it's radical. I've always been experiencing this. So for me, it's just that life gives me more and more responsibilities to share it and to create with it. So what I find, like, my greatest challenge right now is to creating the new technologies which really are coded and sourced from that wisdom. I'll give you a practical example. For example, I'm looking at, with my team, to developing an amazing online learning platform.
Okay.
Now, what we're seeing in our world is that everybody provides a service that has a bug in it, and it's coded in such a way that you will never get the full value unless you pay more. But they give you a little bit of something so that you get hooked in, and then if you want a full service,
right?
And then instead of everywhere being whole and together as that vector, so that you can expand it, everything is fragmented and then pieced together. So when I'm looking at our systems and our technologies today, I find them incredibly inefficient, and I've been very passionate to change that. Although my field is nothing to do with technology, but to be coherent.
Okay, so then that would mean what? It would mean the opposite of this fragmented way to receive enough help. Just enough help today that now that I've got this wisdom, I want more and I've got to pay more to get it. That's the system you're fighting against. And what would be your system then, that you give access to this wisdom to an audience who is willing to, of course, embrace it all, but how would you do it?
So what I would do then is what we have been working with, and I've been training all my team in, is the model of the living torus. So a torus is I don't know if you know how a torus looks like. Yes?
I'm a Taurus. Yes, I'm a Taurus.
Taurus.
Yes.
Okay, that's a Taurus.
I'm a Taurus. All right. Yeah.
And this is Torus.
Yeah.
Where you have the vortex in the center and it converges to its point of singularity and it comes out. So there's a continuous flow. Okay. And that means that therefore what we are working with the systems creating is that there is an inner core that is incredibly coherent. That's the inner coherence of the system. Now, that if that coherence is from wholeness itself, so I call that the wholeness code. So all the elemental wisdoms are there. Then as this model then starts to expand, the coherence doesn't get lost. It can diversify. And as it diversifies, it grows in complexity. But there's a way that all the diversification now adds to the flourishing of the whole system. The same way that we look at forests. What we see is that when forests become more diversified, become more resilient, more healthy, more amazing. So it's all that same principle, that there is always an inner core that's really strong, that you, by design, you design for diversity, but you need to then have a structure in place where the diversity now starts to collaborate and co-create. And that as it collaborates and co-creates, it can converge. so that it can converge into something new. From that convergence then is embedded again all within the same principles, and it just gets richer and richer and richer and richer. So we are now at this point in our planet and our human development as well, when you see there's a lot of diversification. So it's like from the torus, we are like at this base. We've expanded. Early 1800s, we were with 1 billion people. We are now heading towards 7 billion people. We've expanded, we've diversified, but we're not coherent at all. So
no, we're not coherent at all. That's for sure. You're right.
Exactly. So what I'm looking at again is what are the connecting dots? That's the feminine wisdom, the feminine leadership models. So in that diversity that we have, how do we restore the coherence? How do we restore the relationship so that all the diversity now, instead of fighting each other, starts to see, oh, hold on, we are part of the same living system. We are here to work together. You are a wonderful, unique reflection of me. Oh, there's a quality and a skill that you have that I don't have. Thank you for being part of my life. So it's inviting people into a different conversation and a different relationship so that we can then all start to kind of bring the wholeness back together in a way that it really starts to become life generative. So these are the models that I work with. And this is why I refuse a lot of the standard marketing methods, because I just feel it's so dishonest. And
I tend to agree. It's not about agreeing in terms of right or wrong. It's just not aligned. It's not aligned with no. And it's been my greatest source of challenge in the last year is to figure out what feels in integrity with me. Where is the coherence for me on the outside, which is that marketing way. That feels authentic to me on the inside. And so I have just started to work with someone who hopefully will create that, because he is very much aligned in that way. So
wonderful.
I think that's extremely necessary. So when do you think this platform will be ready? Do you have any time frame in mind?
Yeah, we're hoping early next year. We've kind of, in all the services, it's there. So we've been setting it up, but we need more technological support. So if there are people out there who are brilliant,
right,
please connect with us, because we are looking for talented people in that. I can share with people that,
Right. So what are you looking, like, who would be a gift for you? What are the types of help that would be gifts for you right now, so that perhaps we can, we attract this type of...
I love that question. Yes.
Tell me.
People who can think with me to see the technological components of what we are developing, So
okay.
it's for example, that if you're coming onto this platform, that it's very beautiful and very aligned the way people are having a learning experience and a wisdom experience. That it's really smoothly facilitated, but that it makes it possible for there to be a community of offerings, so that we're learning about each other, so that we're not competing with each other, but we can say, oh, you have this wonderful skill, okay, offer it there, let us know about it, that'd be really...
I'm going to keep my ears open to
great.
Yes, because and also you have written a book. Tell us about that, so that people can go and grab it.
Yes, it's on Amazon. Love Letters from Mother Earth, the promise of a new beginning.
Oh, how beautiful, this title.
That is such an important message for right now, because what she's saying is basically this: it's a difficult time, and it may still become a bit more difficult before it gets easier, but she's there with us, and these are letters that came to me after being a very deep meditation with Mother Earth, and they started to come after we had the terrorist bombings in France, and I was supporting a lot of the collective healing there, and I was asking Mother Earth, you are our mother, what is it that we need to understand? What is it that we need to realize? And so that we really awaken to the true potentials of our humanity. So, and she also she shares about the living Taurus, about the sacred flame of life, And how to see gives us 3 keys for how to actualize our unity.
How to actualize. So what are the 3
Our
keys?
unity.
Are those the one you just mentioned, or are they 3 other keys?
The first key is to understand the quadrant of manifestation. So the first key is to really understand that we're looking in the world that has been made manifest.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have the 4 quadrants of our world as well, the 4 corners of our world, yeah, north, east, south, west,
Mm-hmm.
yes. But what we're seeing is, and also in terms of our brain development, you see 4 quadrants there as well. So
Mm-hmm.
every time when things manifest in life, it manifests through a principle of 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yet and that's understanding the first key, understanding the principle of manifestation, and then understanding how the problem where we kind of got off track, because we're seeing that quadrant structure through duality vision. So when we're seeing it dualized and polarized, rather than allowing the 4 to converge in the center, which is a 5th, we now start to fight and divide. So these 4 corners can't come together.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Again,
we see repeating patterns.
Again,
Exactly the
it's
same
exactly
thing again.
what's happening on the outside is happening on the inside.
Absolutely.
What's
Same
happening
thing.
on the outside is just a reflection of the
It's just a
collective
reflection.
inside, right?
So that's the first key, really understanding that from the inner and from the outer. Yeah? Understanding what is manifested, what is really the unified reality of life, where are we not seeing that, and how do we get out of that duality. Then the second key is the triunity. That's the principle of 3. That's the principle of creation. And that's the co-creative unity between the masculine and the feminine principle.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah. It's a beautiful one, exactly.
Oh my God.
So that's the second key, and very often people thinking of co-creation again in a duality as in 2. But it's always in sets of relationships of 3. So that is the 1 is 3 in aspect. So that when the oneness becomes active to create, there's always 3 principles. Because if you were to only have 2, you have energy over here, energy over there in equal amounts, there's no movement.
So then,
for this,
yes. Let's go back to the triunity so that I'm clear. It's the co-creativeness between feminine and masculine, and that's only 2. What's the third one?
So the first one is that they come from the common source. So the source out of which they come are neither masculine nor feminine. So there's from the 1 it becomes 2.
Right. Okay, got it.
So that's your first trinity. And then when the feminine and masculine start to now come together to unite, the alchemy, the third, which is the child or the spirit of life, is born from that relationship, from that union. And that's where your third one manifests down. So you have the top triangle and you have the bottom one. Yes?
Yes.
Exactly.
Beautiful. And the third key?
So in the third key is the 7 stages of consciousness through the dark goddess. You will like that. So the 7 going to the kind of the gates of the underworld journey. But the underworld is really under our higher world. It's here, right here. It's the underbrain. It's the lower part of the brain. But it's to go into the journey of the sacred darkness in 7 stages of consciousness, where you're working with the elemental wisdoms, going back from earth into water, into fire, into air, into ether, into sound, into light, back into the unity. And that if you go through that journey, it ends that journey of duality. And that by completing that process, you're kind of reborn from the cosmic womb. So you come into this life through the planetary womb, the womb of your mother, and the womb of Mother Earth. And then as you complete that journey of the 7 stages of consciousness, you are reborn into a new cycle. Doesn't end there, but it's like it prepares you then to have a second birth through the cosmic womb. Yeah, and it's from there that when you come out of that process, there is now that actualization of the unity, because it's the 3 keys now they've come together. So as you start to see the unity in all of life and how it works, now it's actualized within. So you can now actively work with it as a co-creator with the universal wisdom for the good of the whole.
Wow. Beautiful. I love it.
So
this is the type of book everyone should read. Seriously.
Thank you.
I mean,
a lot of people say it's been changing their life. Yes.
So it's available on Amazon.
That's the old cover. This is the one that were the original letters. The Promise of a New Beginning is the new cover. Is a beautiful blue cover with a planet. Yes.
Okay. So is it out? The new
Yes,
cover?
it's out now.
I'm sorry?
It is out now.
Yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
it is on Amazon. But if you go and buy it around the period of the 23rd, 24th, 25th of November, I'm going to put some promotional offers there as well.
Okay.
So I'll give some little gifts
Oh,
for people to come into more experiences like a meditation.
So people can join you on this platform through your website, correct? So
Yes,
it would be
that's right.
Earth, and it's under the name of the company EARTHwise Center.
That's it, earthwisecenter.org.
.org.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and
Beautiful.
then center is written in the British way, CENTRE. That's it. Yeah, you got it.
Yes, we got it.
Exactly.
Okay. And so we have about 5 minutes left. So I want to, I feel like this conversation is so rich and dense with beauty and wisdom and light. Thank you so much. It's just gorgeous. What the work you do is amazing. And I invite more people to check your site and the work that comes out of your beautiful self. And so moving forward in terms of your dream, and I'm not talking about a dream that is just a dream. And a lot of people refer to dreams as dreams, as though they are, held up there and they never make it happen. For me, a dream is a vision, an ideal vision of something that I'm wanting to create, and I am going to create. So it's going to become reality. What would be your dream?
The birth of a new species.
Woof, that's a big dream. The birth of a new species. Okay, what does that mean?
That we become a true planetary being, so that we truly accept our magnificence, truly accept the potential that's been given to us, so that we knew in the sense that we learn how to renew ourselves, because the way we've been, it's not working. And we all know that,
We all know that.
Because coming back to the fire, become the phoenix. So the phoenix rises from the ashes. The tears of the phoenix, it heals. Yeah. So become the phoenix and really renew ourselves as a species, because then only we can renew our world. We can't heal the world if we don't heal ourselves. We can't renew the world if we don't renew ourselves.
Absolutely.
Fire makes new life possible. When I was living in Australia, and a lot of bushfires there, if you come always a month later, you see this amazing new life that's sprouting from the earth. The greenest green that I've ever seen. So it also activates new life. So let us, in that hardship of all the fires that's happening and all that destruction, let's really connect with that new growth and that new life, give birth to ourselves as a new species, a species born from love and unity.
Really doing the work, the inner work. It's an inside job. I always refer to it as an inside job. It really matters that we take so seriously the healing that we all need within in order to be birthed in a new way and create the life that we want in a way that serves us, but also serves the greater good. So I am so grateful that you were with us today. I am blessed to have you in my field of work and awareness and magic. We are creating magic here in the world by healing ourselves and therefore wanting to heal others.
And healing together in the spirit of Ubuntu. Yeah, in Ubuntu it tells us my humanity is connected to yours. I can only become fully human by you, by us together. So we're doing this together, and that's why I also really want to thank you for your amazing work in the world and everything that you stand for, and for everything that you're sharing to your beautiful show. It's been such an honor to be here with you and to share.
Thank you so much. I love you tons. See you soon.
Love you too.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us, all of you. And until next time, until next week. Thank you.
Bye.